Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast, where we invite you to be a part of real conversations with real women as we navigate the normal thoughts, feelings, and events in life as Christians. I'm Jess McKinney, one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Lydia Florence.
I jumped the gun, but I'm Sarah Hopkins.
It's okay. We were laughing before we ever began.
Always.
Oh, it's my favorite. I feel like we haven't done this in a while, and it's kind of nice to be back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
been a
mean,
minute.
it's been darn near 2 months, right?
Yeah.
Has it?
Close, because it
Summer,
was...
You were gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wowzers.
They don't know this, but
No. All I remember
Surprise.
is that in the last episode, I was less pregnant than
you
I am
were indeed.
now. I feel a lot rounder.
We could do what they do in sitcoms and just put purses and bags around you.
Yeah, just hide.
and just nothing to
That's-
see here. She's
That's
fine.
what I did the day that I preached. I had the music
You
stand.
did.
And I like put it right in front of my belly because we hadn't told anybody yet. And I was at the very end of my first trimester. And I was like, please, no one look at my stomach.
Oh, it was amazing though. I loved it because like the day after, you're like, I have to tell you something.
Yeah, it was literally the day after. I was like, okay.
I know.
Can't hide it anymore.
So great. Nobody would have known.
No, I wouldn't have known.
You
Wow.
sat like a certain way when you sat down.
I did,
and
but
then-
I had to
yeah.
hold the book that, like right here because I had a button on my dress that just like would pop. Like,
Just in
this
case.
is no bueno.
behind the scenes of Sunday mornings.
Anyway.
Here's what you don't know.
It's good to be back.
Oh my gosh, it is good to be back. The leaves are changing. It's beautiful outside. I am in all the fall
Best.
feels.
This
Makes me
is
so
people
happy.
get seasonal depression disorder, and I know it's a real thing, but I come alive
I was
when the
gonna say,
temperatures drop. I'm like, oh, now I can finally thrive.
I mean, me and my sweatshirt over here, are very happy.
If I could pull that color off,
You could.
no, no. That's nice of you, though.
Yeah, I
like
got
that
you.
you're
I
encouraging.
got you. I will encourage you all day. You know this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
bad
That's great.
news.
Okay, so we're going to talk about something today, and I'm going to segue into it because we had summer, we had breaks, we had vacations, and we had Sarah's sabbatical, which is
Yeah, we
wonderful.
did.
So she's coming off of a 1 month time away to refresh and kind of learn some life lessons and travel a little bit. And we talked earlier in an episode about how well traveled you are.
Just adding to it,
Which is
adding
great.
to the magnets.
Yes. So I really think like we just I need a debrief,
Oh, yes.
basically. What'd you do?
Okay, ask
What'd you
questions.
learn?
What did I do?
Yeah, where'd you go? Let's talk about that
Okay,
first.
so we'll put it in a 3 parts.
Great.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah, it's like a little teepee. The first part, I have friends that live in Northern Ireland. And so when I knew this was coming, I looked at kind of maybe going out west. That sounded really depressing because you're just by yourself. And so I thought I could look at the Grand Canyon, but you're like, oh, there's a hole.
Let's do it with other people. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful though. Having been there, it doesn't matter if you're there with people or not.
I think it does.
Stunning.
Like, you just want somebody there.
I mean, I chased a 4-year-old around when I was
yeah,
there. It
well,
wasn't,
that's terrifying.
yeah, it was
But
literally
just, like,
terrifying.
yeah, just,
Yes.
and it was actually cheaper to go and stay with
What?
by far. Because when you think, I just have to fly to get over there.
Yeah. You have housing.
I have housing.
Right.
So I had asked a friend, can I come stay in your house for almost a month? And she said, yeah, that's fine. Come on. And then she sent a text and said, what if we went to Italy while you're here?
Yes, please.
As you do, as if it's just going down to Gatlinburg for the weekend.
Totally.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And so that was the plan. And I spent the first week and a half just with her and some other friends that I realized I've been friends with for almost 20 years because Southland used to send mission teams over. And I made friends with some couples and different people, and we've kept in touch. And so it was a week and a half of just being with them.
yeah.
And that was really sweet. And so that time was just emotionally really, really good. Yeah. And then after that, went to Italy, and there were some girls that just crashed my trip.
Okay, hold on. Because I was one of them.
You lucky dog.
I didn't crash. I was invited. That's how I remember it.
So Jess and Katie Fiola and Liz Plelly, who are all on staff, heard that I was going and said, we're coming. And I said, that's perfect. And it really, truly was wonderful to be able to experience what we experienced, see what we saw with people that I love. That to me is, especially when they're not, they're good travel companions. And so it's not stressful and it's not emotionally draining. That
Until you have random days where you don't know what you're doing. But outside of the one day, it was fantastic.
yeah, that
We may have gotten lost. It's fine.
it's fine. I was ready to die. It's fine. Just let Jesus take the wheel, and
He worked it all
he
out.
worked it out. But I felt like a gross slug that
We
day.
all did.
It was
Oh,
so
man.
bad. But it was beautiful, and getting to we went to Pompeii, which
Oh man.
was life-changing for me because I'd wanted to go when I was a little girl, and it's incredible. And now being someone who loves history and loves learning about that stuff, it was like a fat kid in a candy shop. Like I could have stayed all week learning
It was
about
incredible.
everything. It just wasn't enough. And then came home and spent a week just at my house organizing and cleaning, which for me is very restful.
Therapeutic.
Very, because you can see how it was, and then you see what it is now, and it's better now. I can't do projects. I don't lay tile floors on a random Sunday
I know what you're
afternoon.
talking
like
about.
someone.
Jess, you little construction
ever-
worker.
Have you ever looked on her Instagram profile? She's like, laying a tile floor today, putting up drywall today. I'm
Okay,
like,
Joanna Gaines.
yeah. I folded a fitted sheet today. Like, what?
Hey, that's
I can't do
witchcraft.
that, though.
If you can fold a fitted
I don't want to
sheet,
brag, but I can.
I need to be taught. I can't do
I
that.
can do that. That's what I taught myself in lockdown.
I'm the commercial.
People were making bread. I was
I'm
folding
the
sheets.
commercial where the guy's like fitting the corners, like, yeah, you do this, and then you do this, and they just wad it up.
oh yeah,
That's me.
that's the
No.
only correct way is to go.
Yeah. Yep,
Like
exactly.
that.
There's a way that makes it all nice and like a little parcel, little package.
man,
So
I need to be taught.
that was the restful. So you had emotionally just wonderful and life-giving. Then it was crazy town, but such an experience that, my goodness, what a blessing. And then I got to conk out. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so if you haven't figured out, I should have led in with this. We're talking about rest today, which I think there's a lot that we can glean from your experience.
I have no problem resting.
I do 120%, as evidenced by me laying tile on the weekend, which is not all the time, just sometimes.
How much house do you have to tiles going up the walls?
No, it's done. We built a stair railing. It's fine. That was last weekend. So it's not all the time. It's just sometimes, you know. But we bought this house 18 plus years ago, and it was as is, which I didn't know as a 21-year-old what that meant. Well, now I do.
Yeah.
After so many projects, and it was unexpected, but still fun. So Chuck and I have learned a few trades along the way, and now we've touched just
Basically
about
Bob
every
Vila.
inch of our home. I wish we were that good. We're
I
not.
genuinely love. I don't go for the housing shows on like HGTV. I'm a purist, and I love this old house.
Oh yeah.
That. I could sit and watch that because they do it well. I would buy a crappy house in New Hampshire just so they would redo it.
Yeah.
That
It would be great
amazing.
if somebody would just come redo it for me. I will say I tend to like start a project and then get like halfway in and go, why did I do this?
You lose
And then I
motivation.
hate it.
You just lose
I
steam.
know. And then I just want it to be over. And
Yeah.
that's the part where I'm like, well, we don't really need to do that. We don't have
Yeah.
to tape off the floor. It'll be fine. We'll just
Yeah.
slap some paint on there, and then there's little paint dribbles all through the house, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Nope.
not my best moment. I'd love it for somebody to just come do it for
If
me.
you just organize, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
It's already done.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
I'll
I have
come organize my
2
house.
questions that I want to ask. So I'll just give you both, and then you can answer in whatever order you want.
Go.
One is for our listeners who might not be familiar with the word sabbatical or what that means. Will you
Yep.
explain that? And number 2, can you just dedicate a few moments and tell me about the gelato, please?
Yes.
I need to live vicariously through that. Both of you can answer that one.
Sabbatical, in the most simple of terms, is just time away, and usually extended.
Yeah.
For us here on staff, it's a month when you've been on staff for 10 years. So it's just a gift for you to rest. There's no work involved, and it can look different for different people. Some people have had major spiritual experiences. I didn't. Like, I kind of panicked halfway through. Then I was like, I'm not learning. The Lord is not giving me any new word, nothing. I'm not learning anything. And then I had to chill out and realize that
that was the lesson.
a little bit. I had a friend before I left she wisely prayed that the Lord would give me the rest that I needed. And I thought, oh, that's sweet. And then when it really hit what that meant, I was like, oh, that was really wise and really sweet. So
I love that.
that is what sabbatical is. The gelato is incredible. It just, you hate to be that person. It just is better there.
Yeah.
It's good here. It's better there.
I believe you.
And so
It's like pasta.
it is better there.
Also better.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because you're taking it all in and you're trying to figure out what you're eating because you don't know how to read Italian on the menu, but
Well, speak for yourself.
someone showed off.
Oh, we get it.
Oh,
You're cultured.
I'm not, though. That's the thing. I'm not. She's the cultured one.
I did think
I have one gift.
I did not know that she had taken Italian before we left, and so I thought, dang, she has really picked this up.
Whipping it out.
She might have the gift of tongues, and we just didn't know it.
I do not.
But no, she doesn't. She was just.
I'm crying at that.
I really thought the Lord has blessed this girl.
What a fun surprise for you to not tell her that you knew that and just be casually very good at it.
Well, it was funny because we got to a restaurant the first night and the table looked at me once they knew and was like, will you ask for the check? Will you ask them to bring the check?
I'm not talking.
Sure. They all speak English, but sure. I'll do it. I got
amazing.
I'm doing
my
it. But
word.
it was wonderful, and I learned a lot about rest while I was away.
Yeah.
More about Jesus while I was away, which was probably the point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's worthwhile to talk about, while some of us do rest well, others of us don't, and the fact that we work in ministry absolutely does not preclude us from being prone to busyness, which is the hustle and grind of every day that our world spins around and is very easy to get caught up in, especially for myself. I also enjoy being busy. Like, I like having projects. I like having things to do. I almost feel like I thrive in those kind of fast-paced situations. So my struggle is not with the fast-paced side. It's more with but I need to make sure that I have a healthy balance. And I do take time to rest. So we said at the beginning, we're not experts and we're not perfect. And this episode will for sure show you that I am neither.
We don't
of
know
those
what
things.
we're talking about. I do think there's a difference between, and I had to learn this because I am fine with the slower pace of rest. The friend that I was staying with is not. She is what she finally told me. She believes in rest, but she's an active rester.
Yeah.
And she would come home and be like, "What'd you do today?"
Girl, nothing.
No, I hollowed out a tree and made a canoe. What do you think I did? Nothing.
Watching TV.
Yeah, I watched TV. I went for walks. I read books, but I didn't hike up a mountain like a gazelle. I mean, I wasn't doing those things, but that's what she would do. And I found myself getting really insecure about it because it hit a nerve that I was being lazy, that I was not taking advantage of the time. I wasn't making most of the time. I was missing out on, because clearly I should be out doing and I should be out experiencing and da-da-da-da-da. And I wasn't. And so she and I had a little bit of conflict in that. And it wasn't her fault.
Right.
She was just doing her. And I was going, no, you make me feel really sluggish and like a walrus that just washed up on your shores, like just watching another episode of television. But I had to, and I think learning that people do that differently, and the value of knowing how you rest and what gives you joy and energy, because it's not just laying around.
Right.
It is, when you look at scripture, which I think is where we need to point this.
Absolutely.
You see that it's not just, the Israelites weren't just commanded to lay around all day.
Yeah.
Right.
There was joy and celebration in their seasons of rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, Passover is rest, but so is all of their other feasts and things that you see. So,
And Sabbath,
and Sabbath.
which,
Shabbat.
I mean, look at you, fancy. I mean, I was sitting there thinking, like, why is this such a struggle? Because literally the first thing that the Lord does after he creates the world is rest.
Yeah.
He models exactly what we need to do. And
Yep.
we're like, I'm busy. I can't take a break.
And you know what? One thing I want to point out about that I learned, or it just like came to my mind a few years ago, was when I was thinking about rest and trying to learn how to rest well in my life, was that rest is not a result of the fall. Rest is not something that we do in response to like the fall of sin, you know, like God established a pattern of rest before sin ever entered the world. And so we shouldn't at all question whether or not it's a good thing. He put that into motion, and it's not just something that, oh, great, now we have to rest because we get tired as a result of the fall or whatever. It's like, no, this existed before sin was even in the world. So we know it's a good thing.
Yes.
I like to think of that, especially because like with anything with scripture, there's so much depth to it, but it's not he didn't stop working. It's not like he just stepped away from his creation and said, I want nothing more to do with this. And I have, no biblical way of knowing this is true, so sorry. But I picture it now of God just sitting back and seeing his creation and being thrilled with it.
It was good.
Watching his sunrises and his sunset and his children playing and everything working the way he intended it to, knowing that soon it's gonna all fall apart. But in this moment, I'm gonna really enjoy this. And he's in his creation, and he's walking with them through the garden, and just those moments that he invites us into to emulate. That's pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But, and I mean, I think about the times where I think there's a misconception maybe that when people rest, you're just supposed to sit around. Like, it's not necessarily that. I think you are able to actively rest, as your friend said, but it's different. It's refreshing.
Yes, it's joy-giving.
Yes, exactly. It's life-giving sometimes, and those are the things that refuel you. And I think part of that is ensuring that that time is worshipful, whatever it looks like. Going back to what we talked about with worship, it's time where you, whether you are actively sitting down and talking to the Lord or not, he's a part of all of it, and he's giving you back what you needed that's been depleted throughout the week as you've done the good work he has set before you to do. But even in that, he knew we needed a break.
Yeah, and I think that there are different kinds of rest for different kinds of tired. So when you think about tiredness, like, there's the kind of tired that you feel after you've been at the lake or the pool all day and you're sunburnt and you're like happy tired. And you're like, oh, what a great day, but I'm so tired I could sleep for 10 years. And then there's the kind of tired that you feel when you've tiled your kitchen or done a really hard workout and you're like, I'm body tired. Like, physically, I'm just, I'm spent. But then there's the kind of tired where, you're up all night with a baby, as I'm soon going to learn, or you're a college kid burning both ends of the candle and you're sleepy tired. But then there's also like, my life has more questions than answers, or I've been hit with wave after wave of grief, or there's like soul tired, and for the different kinds of tired, there are different kinds of rest that are needed. Sometimes genuinely we need to sleep.
Absolutely.
Like sometimes that's the holy thing to do.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you need to do something that might not be physically restful, but is filling. Like you talked about the first part of your sabbatical, like it was life-giving, even if it wasn't physically the same kind of rest. And then in all of it, like, especially with that soul tired, like, Jesus has to be in that. There is not a cure. There is not a vacation in the world. There is not anything that's going to remedy a soul tired without Jesus. So
it's that asking him what, like the friend that prayed over me, give me the rest that I need, or even asking, what do I need right now? Because I probably don't have the emotional depth to know myself and to know what I need. What what keeps you, do you think, from resting well? Like you said, you don't do it well, so why not?
Well, as I said, I enjoy being busy, so I think that's part of it. Part of it is just I don't know, however the Lord wired me. But I think for me, it's slowing down. I have to slow my pace down, and I get so routine, and this is just what I do, that I have to remind myself it is important to enjoy this moment instead
Yeah.
of planning for whatever my kids need for tomorrow. Just enjoy today.
Yeah.
Because watching them play isn't going to be here forever. Or honestly, one of the ones lately, my kids want me to snuggle with them at night, which is so cute. I know you're like, oh, it's so sweet. But also when you are exhausted.
Yeah, I don't want to.
No, I want to go to my bed and I want to turn my heating pad on and I want to get in bed and I want to go to sleep. That's what I want to do. And reminding myself, though, and I have prayed this many times, Lord, remind me that this won't be forever. And I need to enjoy the moment I have right now and stop thinking about whatever's next, even if it's just 5 minutes from now.
Yep.
I need to enjoy this moment of rest that you've given me and slow it down a little bit. So I have to remind myself of that often, just because, like I said, I think you just get in what I'm going to call the grind of life. And I have to remind myself that it is holy to rest. And that is what I have been called to do in seasons and at certain times. And then, yes, go and embrace what he's given you to go and run and do the work.
Yeah.
And then rest again.
Yeah.
So I just have to get in that routine.
That's really good.
Do you think that there's a performance for women in general, but to be seen as the mom who has it all together, or the wife who's always doing this, that, or the woman who makes sure that people don't think that you're just some lonely old woman sitting at the house, by yourself,
that you're accomplished, that you're not a total,
and
slob
so
kebab.
If you slow down, then you'll be everything that the stereotypes.
Yeah.
I think for some women, yes. I think there are some women who have really done a good job, thinking back to like our conversation with Rebecca, they've done a good job of going, yes, I love people and I am grateful that they're in my life, but their opinions are not the ones that matter.
Yeah.
So I think there are some women who have it together where they're like, my priorities are set and I don't, I've got this part. They may struggle with other things, but they've got that on lockdown. And then I think there are others of us that, it's partially, well, what is everyone else going to think? What's going to happen? Some of it's control related, I think.
Yeah.
What will happen if I don't do what I feel like I need to in this moment, or I let that one thing slide, or I take a month away from work? What's going to happen to my team? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a big part of it too. Trusting that the world will go on. The Lord made something good. He does not need you, but he's grateful to have you as a part of it.
Yeah.
I remember we took a vacation in May of this year, and it was the first time that we had a real vacation since our honeymoon 5 years ago. And I remember feeling like a little bit embarrassed to like tell people that we were going to go to the beach for a week, because I was like, people are going to think we don't deserve it. People are going to think I haven't worked hard enough for this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, where's this coming from? Like, why? I'm like feeling some kind of shame around this, like some kind of, I don't know, like works-based whatever, or worried about what other people think, or they're going to judge me because I'm taking time off. And so, and I had to kind of catch myself and remind myself of a lot of those same things, because I probably tend towards what you do, Jess, like less so than I used to, certainly. But I think there is some kind of, whether it's something we impose on ourselves or something our society has taught us or whatever, but like what you're talking about of, do we feel this pressure to be this certain thing? And I think subconsciously I did, because I caught myself feeling that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't deserve it. That's a big one. Or I felt that a lot. Like, what do I do that I deserve month off?
I haven't earned this.
It's not like I'm out in the fields,
Well,
I'm not growing anything. I'm not doing anything but and so you're just kind of work through that, and not to, it's hard. It's hard to be okay with that.
It's hard to accept gifts the Lord gives us just in general, because that's such a gift. Like the fact that we get to do those things is such a gift, that we can talk about what it looks like even to rest. I mean, that's a gift.
Yeah.
There's
also
I don't know why we have
something-
such a hard time accepting the gifts that he was like, here, please take it.
I know.
Well, and we take other things that he doesn't give us that aren't good for us. We're like, oh, this is great.
This will be the one.
And
Well, and like he modeled it for us, so there's that. But there's also the fact that like it's wired into us. We're created into his image. We need rest.
Yes.
When I was in college, I went to Bible college, and so the college that I went to was very academically rigorous. And so sometimes assignments would look like writing 20-page papers or learning Greek or whatever. But, you know, it also came with the advantage of my professors being really intentional people who wanted to shape our character. And so in one class that I was in on the book of Romans, I actually had an assignment called Gospel Naps. It was an actual assignment that I got a grade for. And the whole idea, because, you know, the book of the Romans talks about, you know, we're justified and we're saved by grace through faith, and we're not, it's not something we can earn, and all these things. It's a big theme through the book of Romans. And so in order to put that into practice, one of our assignments was for 30 minutes a week, we had to take a gospel nap. We had to turn off all technology, and we just needed to basically literally lay down in the goodness of God and just remember his love for us. And so it was called a gospel nap. And that is literally the only assignment in college that I flat out failed. I did not do it because I wasn't a straight A student by any means, but I cared about my academics. But it was just like, that assignment to me was so silly, and there was 100 other things always vying for my attention, and so I just failed it. I just didn't ever do it. And that was also one of the first times in my life where I experienced the consequences of not resting.
That's what I was going to ask.
And not just because I didn't get a good grade on that assignment, because it, you know, whatever, but because I saw the consequences in my life of not slowing down, of my mental health, my physical health deteriorating, of prioritizing the wrong things, of being driven by the tyranny of the urgent, you know, constantly. And like, I look back at that now and I can see a little more clearly than I could as a 19 or 20-year-old or whatever, that rest is not just something that is a gift, but is also kind of a command. It is something that God wired into us to need. And so if God rested after creating the world, if Jesus rested, if he took a little nap on the boat before he calmed the storm, who on earth am I to think that I can get away with not resting? And so me failing that assignment helped teach me some things and input some rhythms into my life that have changed the way I think about my need for rest.
Oh, absolutely.
So if we know it's so important and we know it's wired into us, why on, let's say, Sundays, do we see families and people running about trying to get everything shoved in? Sports, I'll probably get an email, but like this is, don't hate me because she doesn't have kids, she doesn't know. But so my question is, if we know that it's so important and we know that it shapes our character and coming to church and spending time and being present with one another, worshiping God Almighty, if it is that important, why are we rushing to get through it and to get out to a sports game or a this or a that isn't as important?
That's the question.
That is the
Why
question.
do we struggle so much with our inherently sinful nature? Why did we give in?
I don't know.
In the first place.
So hot take. I think that if everyone in, let's just say Lexington, if everyone in Lexington who calls himself a Jesus follower, who has kids, whatever, in sports things that you're paying for, you're paying to do this. If everyone who went to church said, hey, we're just not going to do Sundays, this is just a priority for our family, we're just not going to do it. I kind of think the organization that's taking the money, because they're driven by profits, what they saw that their profits really depleted, they probably wouldn't do it on Sundays anymore. I could be wrong. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. I want your kid to have, I want them to enjoy sports. My friends' kids are in sports. It's adorable. I love going to the games. I love going to dance competition. I love it.
Sure.
But my question is, are those things as important for us as individuals and as families as worshiping together and spending time Sabbathing together?
Yeah.
Discuss.
Well, so one thing that has come to mind, and this is not answering your question at all.
Great. Now I'm just going to get
But
fired.
No. But I just it got me thinking, because I think the rest time for me, so I work Sundays. Let's go there, right? I work Sunday. Sunday is not Sabbath for me. My weekend days are Friday and Saturday. And so I have to figure out when is my time to break away and go, I'm not doing any of this stuff. None of this is as important. as making sure that I rest the way that I am commanded to rest.
Yeah.
So I do think there's part of it where if Sunday's not the day, and it doesn't have to be the day,
yes.
what is the day though? You have to be intentional with that.
Yep.
So I do think that it just got me thinking, because I was sitting there going, for some people, they do have to work on Sunday, or they, I don't know, maybe it is the only time that your kid can do soccer or whatever. My kids, we don't do sports right now. We do gymnastics. That's about as far as we get. But, you know, is it Saturday or is it Friday nights, or like, what is that time where you can go, but I've been intentional about resting and not going on to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, what I think of is, you know, in the Old Testament, when God, you know, commanded the Israelites in the 10 Commandments, the fourth of the 10 Commandments was, thou shalt keep the Sabbath day holy for worship and for rest. And so he set that very specific guideline in place for the Israelites, for his people, to set them apart in the Old Testament. And, you know, they repeatedly messed that up, and there were consequences for that. But that was like how it was initially modeled. And then when Jesus came on the scene in the New Testament, and you know, he fulfills all things and he redeems all things. And there's a bunch of times in the New Testament where the Pharisees are getting their panties in a wad because he's doing something on the Sabbath. You know, he's healing someone, or his disciples are picking, you know, heads of grain or whatever. So they're all getting fussy about it. And in Mark 2, Jesus says that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, and the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. And what I think he's trying to communicate there is, hey, let's not be legalistic about this. The Sabbath was made for man. This was intended to be a gift to you, something to lighten your burden, not to burden you. And so I think what that, at least part of what that means for us now, is that we have to be able to prioritize those rhythms. And I believe that Sunday morning, the gathering in the body of believers, is an essential part of our faith. That is something that we need to do to keep our faith strong, and is something we should prioritize. But if that's the only time in our week that we're considering to be rest, then we've probably kind of missed the point. And the other side of that same coin is, if we get too legalistic about what has to be this and it can't be something else, then we've also missed the point. What Jesus is trying to do is kind of free us of the shackles of both of those things and get the main point across, which is to say, we all need the rhythms of worship and rest to stop and delight in the Lord, to be in his presence, to physically rest as well. And the rhythms of that may look a little different, which is not to downplay the importance of Sunday mornings, nor is it to make it the ultimate, act of rest. But that's what that makes me think of.
Because let's be honest, getting your kids ready for church is not restful. I have been there many times, and my husband will tell you that every single Sunday that I am leading somewhere, he is getting two girls out of bed, one of whom hates getting out of bed, and trying to brush their hair, which they both hate, and get them ready and get them in the car, and they're screaming and yelling, and then eventually they make it to church and all is well with the world. But it is the opposite of restful.
Wrestling a bobcat.
Right. Absolutely. So just I don't know. It is interesting how we've kind of made that into our model, though. Attending church is what the Lord meant by honor the Sabbath and keep it holy.
When it is an essential part of worship.
It is.
But
it's not. It's not the rest that God modeled in Genesis for us. We had growing up, our friends, their Sunday morning, because Sunday was an easy day for them to model that. But they would go to church. That was fine. Afterwards, they would always go to their grandmother's house. The whole family. I was always so jealous. They'd go to their grandmother's, and they would have lunch together, and then go home, and the phone was off the hook, and they didn't have to take a nap or anything, but it was, you go to your room, you go to yours, and it is quiet. You can read, you can do this, that, and the other, something that is enjoyable, but it is downtime. So the parents could have some downtime. And I was always kind of annoyed by it, because I'd always want to call during that time. But in their phone, you'd get the busy signal. I love that. They're just like, no one taking the phone off the hook. That's amazing.
we're out. And now as an adult, I think, my goodness, they were so wise.
Oh, yeah.
So wise.
Yes.
And I just think, yep, Sunday afternoons, because we work.
Yes.
Sunday afternoons, I try to just conk out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Saturday is my enjoyable day of what can I clean, what can I organize.
Exactly. Which is still somewhat restful for you, though. I get that.
In talking about like Sabbath and in talking about rest, what do you think are like the essential components of that? And it may be, like I said, it may be a little different for different kinds of tired. You might have different kinds of rest. But for something to be Sabbath, if we're talking about that specifically, of a time set aside, like as God modeled for us, what are the essential components to Sabbath?
Something joyful. Like, and it very well may be being at your kid's soccer game.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
If that's something your family is all in, and that is wonderful. What a way. Because you just think of God sitting back or being within his creation and just reveling in it. And so to me, it's what can you revel in? And it's just light.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that I'm going to say it's energizing, but not necessarily in that moment, because I would say sleep is energizing, but when you're sleeping, obviously you don't feel super energized. But one of the things that we're kind of in a time where the kids will want to like get in our bed and watch a movie or something, and I am wholly uninterested in whatever movie they're watching. But when we got home from that trip, the thing I wanted to do was get in bed with them and just enjoy being close to them. Again, knowing that they're not going to be there forever. That was one of the first things that I wanted to do. I can't even remember what they watched because I'm pretty sure I fell asleep through part of it. But just spending time there going, this is a really good moment, and I'm going to walk away from this in a couple of hours, and we're going to have to do what we normally do, but I just get to enjoy this moment that the Lord's given me. And I think recognizing that it was from him, those are the kinds of things that I think of when I think of true rest. They're fulfilling.
Yeah.
And it's not always the same either. I think it's different things, because there are plenty of moments where I don't appreciate those things, and I'm like, I just want to be by myself right now. But you know, in general, like that's just one specific thing I can think of. It just refreshes you. And I do think it depends, like you said, on how you're feeling. I sometimes, like, I need to be around people and enjoy my community, and that is restful and refreshing for me. There are other times where I need to step away and be by myself, depending on how emotionally tired I am, or what the day has looked like, or the week has looked like. So I do think it kind of looks different, but it's more recognizing I haven't done this yet. I need to make sure this is part of my everyday, every week.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, there's a very wise person on staff here, and I'm not going to say this eloquently, but essentially he says, like, every week you need to make sure that you are resting and taking some time. And then every month you need to make sure that there's a little bit more dedicated time that you've taken away. And then once a year, there really needs to be moments where you're like, I have set this aside to enjoy what the Lord has given me. So it is a regular rhythm throughout his year that he is used to. And I've heard him say it over and over and over again. And I've tried so hard to make sure that's a part of my rhythm, because I do feel like that's where I've found rest and I've found joy, and I am thankful for what God has given me in these sweet little moments that may only be an hour or two, but also once a year, it's like you get a whole week of, Lord, look what you have made. I mean, it's, you know, even if it's going to the beach, like you were saying, you know, you have time together that you don't get very often, and you shouldn't feel ashamed of. You should enjoy that because the Lord's given it to you.
We got a baby out of the deal, so.
Yeah, you did.
That's a souvenir right there.
Sorry if that's TMI, ladies.
More than a fridge magnet, I'll tell you that much.
I love that.
I was telling Lydia, coming back and thinking about the scripture where, because when you talk about doing something weekly or even daily and what that looks like, when Jesus says, give me your burdens, take mine on. And I sat with that this week going, yours, you say yours is light, but you're the God of the universe. No, it isn't. Like, you have all of this on you. And so I thought, obviously there's more to it. There has to be. And so how how is the burden of the God of the universe light? And then remembering that he is the God of the universe, and therefore he has no burden. He is all powerful.
He knows it all.
He knows it all. He is not worried. He is not surprised. He is heartbroken by the things going on. But he also knows that he controls it all, and he will fix it all, and he has redeemed it all and will continue to. And he heals the brokenhearted, and so he doesn't worry about it. And so when we take that on, we are taking on, he is in control. He is all powerful. He is doing this, and I don't have to worry about it day to day to day. And I think it is a day to day to day thing.
Absolutely.
So that when that time of rest comes, you're not just collapsing.
Yes.
That you are kind of in a daily rhythm of bringing things to him in prayer, in that time of quiet, whatever that is. That's why spending time with the Lord daily is not just wise and not just good. It is essential to life.
Yes.
And I don't always do it perfectly, but I can tell you for nothing, when I haven't been. The way that my life just quickly goes off the rails is wild.
Yeah, I love that you brought that verse up, because that's so good. And I think that the thing that I would say is an essential, I think, for something to really be Sabbath, is that it must have the presence of God.
Yeah.
And if I can read, I just have the verse pulled up here, so I'm just going to read it. It's Matthew 11:28-30. It says, Jesus is saying this, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And hearing that, like you said, on first glance, it can seem like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But in the day, back in the Bible day, when this was written, when none of us are probably real familiar with a yoke. Like, I'm not out there plowing a field with my 2 ox and my yoke. But
I mean, you did grow pumpkins, so actually,
I didn't use ox for pumpkins. That was my hands and a hoe. We can talk about me pumpkin farming another day. Anyway, so it was a common practice in the day that you would yoke a weaker animal to a stronger animal to help bear the load. And so I think that when Jesus's original audience would have heard that, they might have understood it a little better than we do. But all that is to say, none of us get out of life with no burdens. None of us get out of life not experiencing tiredness. That's something we all have in common. But also, none of us can actually face these things without Jesus. And so when he says that my yoke is easy and my burden is light, notice he did not say you will have no burden.
Absolutely.
But we're the weaker animal in this scenario. And when we're yoked to Jesus, he says, come to me. When we come to him, when we're doing it with his power, in his presence, not on our own, that's the thing that helps give us rest. And rest does not mean, congratulations, your life is all rainbows and butterflies, you'll never have anything hard again. But it does mean that there is no other self-care or napping or vacation. None of that's going to amount to a hill of beans if Jesus isn't in it. We have to be yoked to him. We have to come to him and be in his presence in order for something to truly be restful.
I love that we've kind of gone into the foundations of, like, this is what has to be a part of your life if you follow Jesus. And we've talked about worship. We've talked about the importance of that being part of your daily rhythm. We've talked about rest now. We talked about spending time with the Lord, praying, those kinds of things, reading your Bible. These are all must-dos. Didn't even plan it that way, and look how it turned out.
Must happen.
They are. You just, and it makes life easier. It truly does. It's weird the way that works, but it just, it matters. It matters so much, and we are created to worship and adore God. And I don't even know where I was going that, but it's so important. And I think when you get so anxious and you don't think that you can give it over to God, you guys make fun of me, but go back to Job and read the end of that and go, oh, that's my God. That is who is asking me to give me, for me to give my burdens over to. He can handle it.
Oh, absolutely.
He can take it.
He can. And I think it's important to note also, we will respond better to those rough situations or to anything that life throws at us when we are well rested. And I don't mean when we've gotten 8 hours of sleep.
Although that is wonderful.
That is great.
That's good.
But we will respond so much differently and with so much more maturity and wisdom when we have taken the time to carve out rest with the Lord the way that he has intended us to have it. When we accept that gift, we look a lot more like him in situations that come at us every day.
Yeah, that is so good. Like I'm just, you know, in the point in my life currently where I'm dwelling on the fact I'm like, will I ever know sleep again? Because I am currently being kicked from the inside out, and pretty soon I'm going to have a, you know, kiddo who's going to need me and who's going to be crying at night, and I'm sure I will lack sleep. And so I think one of the things that I need to remember is the habits that I have in place now of rest. I should not wait until I'm at that point when I'm sleep deprived and just tired and hormonal and whatever. I shouldn't wait till that point to be like, I should probably figure out how to rest. Like, in some ways, this is kind of a season of me like storing up strength for that time, even though I know I will be sleep deprived. That's part of it. But there are habits that I can put into place, and there are things that I can do now to store up strength and to store up good rhythms so that when this baby arrives on the scene, I already have some of those things in place. I'm not waiting until the moment of crisis to learn what it means to know how to rest or to give things over to God.
And again, ask him what you need. Ask, because going back to the control thing, we are not God.
Right.
And
Amen.
Yes, he modeled rest for us, but he's going to rest in a way that we could never fully understand. And for us to look at him and go, that's really nice. You need that. I don't. I'm good. It's so...
It makes me cringe. I'm like, oh,
but
I'm
how
the
many of
worst.
us going, I get it, God, you think, but I don't have time to rest. I don't have time, which is looking at him going, I'm not going to ask you to help me in this situation because I got this, which is just buying into the lie that Satan fed us in Genesis, which is you can be like God. It always goes back to that lie. Always. You can be like God if you do this. And so we just twist it and go, yeah, you're right. I can be. I need no rest. I am Superwoman. I can do all of these things. And if I do these things, then I will get the accolades that I need for people to approve me. Look that I have done all of this. And it will destroy you.
Yes, it will.
And your relationship. I mean, just it eats you from the inside out.
I hope listeners, watchers, whatever you are, that like you've heard that rest is more than sleep, because it is. It's more than sleep. And yet I also want to plug, like what you said, 8 hours of sleep is a really good thing.
It's a good thing.
Fine. Like, take the challenge of for the next month, especially as we're gearing into the holidays, find ways that you, your friends, your family can start doing this. Get in the practice of going for hikes.
Take your gospel nap.
Take your gospel nap.
I love a gospel nap. Can we make that a thing here?
I would thrive in that class.
I would love that.
Next podcast is just us napping.
I love it. Do a craft. Go paint. Go do whatever. Go read a book. Buy a beautiful something. I don't go to someplace. Just do it and see. Do an experiment for a month and see if things don't start to look a little different.
Yeah. And I kind of going back to what you said and then piggybacking off of that also, I think it's important for us to recognize we're never, like, you have the benefit of knowing you are going to have a child soon and this is how it's going to change your life. But we don't always have that benefit. No. We don't know what's coming. And the Lord sure did promise that we would have struggles, and that's not going to change. Yeah. So making sure the rhythm of rest is in place now is imperative to making sure that down the road when those things get thrown at you, you're ready.
Right.
And you're not surprised. Sure, you might be surprised by the circumstance, but you're ready for it. And you can handle it knowing that you can lean on the Lord because he's got it all.
Yeah, and he wants to give it to you. Like, this isn't something he wants to withhold from you. And what that looks like will be different in different seasons. But one of one of the stories from the Old Testament that I love is when the prophet Elijah is on the run from the evil queen Jezebel. And so he starts running. He runs into the wilderness. He leaves his servant behind. He runs under a bush. And he's like so miserable and so exhausted. He's like, I just want to die. And literally just wants to die because he's so miserable. And so what does God do? He does the same thing that you would do with a cranky toddler. He gives him a nap and a snack. And he says, lay down and go to sleep. He provides a nice loaf of bread for him. Then he puts him back to sleep. And then it gives Elijah the strength to go on and do the next thing he needs to do. And it's just so like one of those things. It's like Elijah, the prophet, this grown man who, you know, he was a prophet of God. And God was literally like, hey, man, you maybe don't actually want to die. Right. You just need to eat and you need to sleep, and that's going to give you what you need to keep going, and I want to give that to you. And so, again, who are we to think that we don't need that? Right. And also don't doubt the Father's heart in this. It's like he modeled it for us. He created us this way. He wants to give it to you. So trust that and ask him. Yeah.
It's that trusting of God, which seems almost impossible. That is so imperative. I was reading this week in John 3. So go look up John 3:33. It's at the very end, and just a little sentence, and it says God is truthful. And if you can just believe that, so when he says, I will take this on, this is light, I will help you with this, believe him. He is true. I loved that little, almost like a little character bio. Who is God? He's truthful. And oh, he really is. And I don't know, that really helped me this week to go when he says, I will do these things, he will. Absolutely. He will take care of it. He will bear that for you. He is truthful.
Yeah. Well, in the second half of the scripture that you were reading from Matthew 11, he says, come to me. And then he says, let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart. And you will find rest for your souls. And that's why. That's his character. That's who he is. And that's why he's offering us this. We just got to go, yes, please. Thank you so much. I don't deserve it, but I will take it.
I do that with God a lot. With I know I don't deserve this, but you said that you do it, so I'm just gonna have to take you at your word. I do that especially with forgiveness. That's normally when I'm having that juvenile conversation of, listen, I know I willfully sinned again. We both know, and we're here again. But you said that you would forgive me, so I'm just gonna assume that that's true, and we're gonna move on from this, okay? And it's almost like a negotiation tactic, which isn't necessary, but almost talking myself into.
I was gonna say, you're convincing yourself. I know this is true. I know this is true. It's like remember, way too good to be true, but it's true.
But since you said, okay, we're gonna go with it, and I'm gonna accept it, and we're gonna do this like a child.
Can I just say, I've been sitting on this joke for a little while, and it's pretty bad. But I know that we will probably title this episode, Tell Me More About Rest, which makes sense. That's in line with our thing. But if I were titling this episode, do you know what it would be? Stop Resisting a Rest. You get it? Like resisting arrest.
Give you that quote?
No.
I thought maybe he was practicing his dad jokes early.
No, he didn't.
Did they give you that? Did they give you that in Bible college?
A second contender would be, have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again?
Oh, honestly.
They teach you this in like
works
how to
every
preach.
Time, though.
Yeah.
101.
And yeah, it's not good. I know it's not good. I'll see myself out.
So bad.
I kind of want to know if there's like a running joke list for when you're taught to teach, like segues into your messages. Is there a website? Things
Not
like
that I know of, but having grown up with a dad who preached, I just feel like it's kind of in my DNA. Yeah. And so like I am laughing when everyone else is groaning, you know, like I love it. And I think it's so funny. Like when Weiss does some really bad preacher joke, I'm like clapping in the back, like, yeah,
that's a great one. I'm write it down.
And I don't know that I've ever really looked one up. Maybe I have, but I just feel like I've heard enough over time that they're just ingrained in me.
It just comes out.
And they're so bad. I know they are, but that's why they're funny.
But it's amazing. My favorite thing about Wayne Smith is that he used to laugh at his own jokes.
Oh, yeah.
Even if they weren't funny,
Yeah.
he would be laughing before he ever got the punchline
Yeah.
out. And I'm like, that's just pure joy right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Just the
that's all it
happiness
is.
of a bad joke.
It's so good.
I do love a good pun.
Oh, yeah.
A good one.
Well, mine aren't good, but they're there. So this is what I have to offer you.
My puns just are.
Oh my gosh. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up today.
Good call.
And maybe go take a gospel nap. 'Cause
I like that.
Sounds pretty great, honestly.
Yeah.
Right? All right.
Before
that's our
middle school
assignment.
tonight.
Deal.
Before next time, we will take a gospel nap and
Okay.
see how it goes. That's great. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Again, we will be back with another episode next week. So we'll catch you then.
Bye.
Bye.